Okay. So, good morning, students. We'll start our topic number 2 of Unit 5, which is contract, types of contract, party to a contract, and common contract clauses. So, in continuation with our previous class, the third cost-based construction contracts. The third point is cost plus construction contract. So the contract is paid based on the actual cost of the project, including direct and indirect costs, plus a specific fees. So these fees could be a fixed fee or a percentage of cost. All risks are assigned to the owner and he gets involved with the contractor in the management of the project. The contractor has no risk in case of increasing the cost of the project also. There isn't any incentive for any early finish. This type of contract is ideal when the project scope is uncertain in the early stages of the project. So the contractor can start the execution of the project before finishing the design. It is impossible to estimate the cost of the project before the construction has been completed. Number 4, target cost construction contract. The target cost construction contract has some common features of the lump sum and cost plus contracts. The contractor is paid based on the actual cost plus a certain fee, either fixed or percentage of total cost in case of the cost of the project doesn't exceed certain target cost specified by the owner. So there is a risk carried by the contractor in case of an increase in the cost of construction projects. The contractor is also rewarded a percentage of any savings between the target and the actual cost. The next topic is party to a contract. A party to a contract is one who holds the obligations and receives the benefits of a legally binding agreement. When two parties enter into an agreement, there are two distinct roles each play, the promisor and the promisee. The promisor is the party that makes the promise, while the promisee is on the receiving end of the promise. The promisor and the promise are not the only parties who benefit from a contract. Sometimes there are intended and incidental parties, and these third-party beneficiaries gain reward from the terms of a contract. Sometimes a contract benefits others who are not party to the agreement. So these third-party beneficiaries receive benefits of a contract while not owing any obligation. So there are two types of third-party beneficiaries, intentional beneficiaries and incidental beneficiaries. A person whose benefit is intended is called an intended beneficiary and receives benefits from a contract and is generally stated or named within the contract. An incidental beneficiary benefits from a contract indirectly with the difference being intent. Common contract clauses. First one, contract sum. The first clause that you need to pay attention is to the contract sum. This is where the contract price or guaranteed maximum price is spelled out, depending on what project delivery method you are using. Hopefully, you have already come to an agreement on what the price of the work is going to be, so this shouldn't be a shock. So where things get trickier in terms such as alternates, allowance, and unit prices are included in this clause, some of this can potentially add money to the contract value and should be considered in the budget before the work even starts. Alternates are options that you probably discussed during the design or as the contractor is pricing the work, or the contractor may be bringing them up for the first time. For example, we may have had two different flooring options in mind. One is considered part of the base contract and will be included in the contract amount, and the other is an alternate. When alternates are included in the contract, they can either be considered a part of the agreed contract amount or they can be added later through a change order. Make sure the contract language is clear about whether the alternates are included in the base contract or not, as that could raise or lower the actual cost of the work. Allowances. So allowances are amounts included in the contract as placeholders when decisions haven't been made on the final scope of work. For example, if we haven't selected a specific brand of carpet, the contractor may put in an allowance of $30 per square yard as a placeholder in the contract. Once we have selected the exact carpet we want, that price will be raised and lowered depending on how the selection compares with the allowance. So it is the contractor's responsibility to provide a reconciliation of the allowances at the end of the project. At that time, a change order is generally issued to confirm the budgeted allowances to actual cost. Next, unit prices. Unit prices are utilized when the work is going to be contracted on a per unit basis. The unit price multiplied by the number of units completed equals the total contract amount due. So this type of pricing is often used in road construction and other infrastructure projects when there is a standard price for each unit of measure completed. So we'll continue again in this class itself with the next lecture. So till then, don't give your attendance till I ask for it. So the next topic is topic number 3. Please don't give your attendance. I haven't asked for it. Even if you give it now, I will not consider until and unless I have not asked for it. Topic number 3, payments, changes in work, claims and dispute resolution. Payments. The next important construction contract clause is payment terms. It is important to include a description of the payment process in the contract, including the timing, documents required, approval process, and the terms of final payment. This clause should contain language about how often payments are to be made on an ongoing project. So important dates such as the invoice due date and when payment is due should also be included in this clause. These dates are important for all parties to be aware of, as penalties such as interest and line interest are dependent on them. Every project will have its own documentation requirements when it comes to payments. So required documents might include cost backup, subcontractor invoices, subcontractor and supplier lien waivers, payroll reports, and a list of subcontractors and suppliers and how much each is owed. So the process to get a payment approved should also be included in the payment terms. This section will include who reviews and approves the payment request and how long they have to review it. This process will tie into the dates provided in the timing portion of the payment clause. The process to release final payment on a project is often complicated and requires a lot of paperwork. So requirements from the owner, lender, insurance company, and any other parties to the agreement should be included here. Required documents generally include a final certificate of project completion, final construction lien waivers from subcontractors and suppliers, operations manuals, warranties, as-built drawings, and a list of subcontractors and suppliers with contact information. Timing is very important here as the deadline rights expire is determined by when workers were last on the job and when the job was substantially complete. That is all work done except the punch list items. Changes in the work. There are changes in every construction project whether they are expected or not. How these changes will be handled needs to be spelled out in the contract. Terms will include details about general contractor and subcontractor markup or changes, how long the contractor has to notify the owner of any changes, how that notification is to take place, and what to do if there is a disagreement. So there are generally two types of changes that can occur on a project: change orders and change directives. A change order may be started by the architect, owner, construction manager, or the contractor and can be a change to the scope of a work or a change in materials. So once pricing has been determined and an agreement is reached, the scope is added or subtracted from the project. If an agreement cannot be reached on the change and the price, the architect or the construction manager may step in and issue a change directive. This document orders the contractor to make the change in the work with the pricing to be determined later. A change directive prevents a dispute over change order pricing from holding up completion of the work. Next, claims. Anytime there is a dispute between the owner and the construction manager or contractor that cannot be settled, it may escalate to a claim. Basically, a claim is a request for additional time or money regarding the project. The contract will detail the claims process, timeline, and notice requirements. It may also state the preferred method of claims resolution, which we'll discuss in the next section. So, in most contracts, there is a time limit on when a claim can be brought forward. Usually, it is so many calendar days from noticing the issue, or if it is regarding pricing extra work before the extra work is completed. Except in emergency situations, it is important to know what this timeline is because claims submitted after this time has expired and are considered invalid and are dismissed. Claims notices are usually sent in written form both by regular and certified mail. Email correspondence may be acceptable if the contract allows it, but it is always good to follow that up with a formal notice of claim. The first party to review a claim is usually the construction manager or architect. They act as a neutral third party and try to help the owner and the contractor come to an agreement. If there isn't a construction manager or architect on the project or they aren't able to obtain resolution, the claim moves to the next level of dispute resolution. The next part of the claim clause will state how disputes are to be settled that cannot be worked out by the parties. So there are three main options: arbitration, mediation, and litigation. Dispute resolution. So the dispute resolution clause will determine how conflicts are settled if the parties cannot come to an agreement and the architect is not able to settle the dispute. Arbitration, mediation, and litigation are the three main types of dispute resolution used in construction contracts. Arbitration is like a court hearing, in that there is one or more decision makers who hear both sides of the claim and attempts to settle the dispute through deciding in favor of one of the parties. It is slightly less formal than a courtroom but is still a very judicial process. The arbitrator is selected by both parties, usually from a pool of available arbitrators with experience in construction. Next, mediation. Mediation is generally not binding and less formal and is often a condition precedent to litigation, if so stated in the contract. The parties meet with a neutral mediator who attempts to help the parties come to their own agreement. The mediator does not make a decision but tries to get the parties to meet somewhere in the middle. In construction, often, mediation is successful in resolving the claim without the expense of arbitration or litigation, particularly if all the parties are motivated to settle. Litigation is the most formal dispute resolution process and involves the party with a claim filing a lawsuit against the other. A formal hearing will be scheduled with a judge and evidence and testimony will be given by both sides. The judge or jury will render a decision that is legally binding to both the parties. Due to the expense of litigation, mediation and arbitration have become more popular and are preferred ways to settle construction disputes. However, many construction attorneys believe that arbitration is virtually the same cost as litigation and has other disadvantages. In our experience, about half of the attorneys we work with prefer one or the other, but always with mediation as a condition precedent to either action. So now you can give your attendance in the chat box. Thank you.
And today, we will talk about basics of what constitutes a valid contract, what's a void contract, what conditions can a contract be declared void, and basically what is a contract, what are the conditions that make it a contract. I must acknowledge the discussions that I've had with or the Department of Civil Engineers who initiated doing this process, understanding that construction laws and the importance of understanding of contracts as part of commercial construction. So what is as per the Indian Contract Act? A contract is defined
Ma'am,
as
it is not audible.
elements which are enforceable as such having been made by free consent of parties, by persons or lawful consideration and lawful object, and which are not expressly declared to be void by the statute. So this is the technique of the contract is. We can see that there are some clauses or sub-clauses that are underlying this definition. First thing we must understand is that the contract, in our case, most of the time, we be talking of contracts signed by individuals who should obviously be the sponsors. So they are basically organizations or institutions doing certain things. The first thing should be then there has to be consent. There has to be the fact that whatever is contracted for is legal and not illegal in any way. You must also remember that the legality is related to the social values, the society, and the society has the judiciary as the arm which interprets the law. And therefore, a contract has to be seen in the context that whatever is being contracted for should be legal, and whether it is legal or not, it will be decided by the judiciary. So there is an important component of social values, social purposes, which is important in the sense of the word, not to understand each of these now. First of all, there must be a mutual agreement between the two parties. So basically, an object or there is a service or the absence thereof. What somebody is to do or in return for that, these parties are coming together through this. There has to be parties. It cannot be first. The second thing is there must be a one party or the promisor. So basically, this object or service, party A or company A has to make an offer. And that's why in construction law talk of bids. We have a bid offers taking the job to find and has cost. It has to be an offer. And the other party, called the promisee, must accept the offer. So having a unilateral offer by one party, this party must contract. The offer has to be made by the promisee and accept. So once that offer has been made and accepted, and the accept the offer, there must be consideration between the form of doing an act or the act by the promisee or the promise. So the promiser makes an offer that I'm willing to do such as an and the promise for that a certain amount of money which is usually called a consideration. But what's the that part of a contract without the consideration is looked upon because it's not clear as to what is going on which is not part of the contract. It is not a person, institution do something without any consideration. What something specific conditions are also made up. There must be consideration. Doing an act or action by the promise. The offer itself should be not prohibited. So obviously the object of the should not be prohibited by law. Because it should not be illegal. Contract law should be competent. Let's see. etc. That is what was called being competent for the contract. So this is the answer. Limits. In the next again, an acceptance constitute which when it becomes a contract. So when there is no acceptance of the offer, that is precisely what's called an agreement. I offer for some consideration and somebody else accepts the offer. Now, that will determine whether if it is enforceable and to be enforceable, then we have conditions such as prohibited by law, which may be between children or minors. They may be for something and that does not become contracts because that's something which is not enforceable. So that agreement was entered between minors or not. We tend to enter into an enforceable legal agreement or a contract. So now let's say every promise honoring the consideration constitutes an agreement. That's what we defined just now. And enforceable by law, we consider competent contract and with the law and not hereby void. So not only the objection, but the consideration has to be done. If the payment has to be made, which are prohibited by law, then of course the contract becomes void. Once again, to be paid, let's say the contract agreement which is enforced. So an agreement of party, it has to have a proposal, an acceptance, and a consideration. So the proposal, acceptance, consideration, people define an agreement. Once it comes to enforceability by law, there has to be intention, obligation, and forward-looking consequences. And we enter into an agreement or enter into a contract. Specifically, they are explicitly stating their willingness to create some legal obligations towards each other and to follow legal consequences. So that intention has to be understood by the contract. So enforceable by law essentially is not intention to obligations and to follow legal consequences for a lawful change, lawful gains, and the contract should not be void. So these are the kind of conditions which are important to understand when it comes to enforcement by law. As we go into this discussion, that most of the things that we are talking about are more or less common sense. And that's what I said at the beginning of this point. Most of the laws are concerned, except the percentage, are therefore it's important for the construction manager to just have a opinion for the thing. The provisions under what conditions they are and so on. We simply cannot make lawyers and compete with lawyers when it comes to a 30-minute or a 4-hour discussion on construction law. It's we hope that you will have some insight into processes that are important to shape what is competence of people. As far as competence of people, one thing is that they should be leaders. They should be a person. And responsible. There, to making a legal commitment on the company or the institute. So if all of that is conflict, of course, minor obviously a person who's not sound as far as understand what is into what kind of legal implications need entering into an agreement is concerned. Against a proposal, it is an offer certainty and possibility of performance. This is another interest. Stand that as far as an agreement or a contract for something which is not possible to perform. That cannot be contrast. So impossible situation. Then similarly, there has to be certainty. As we have seen in our projects, a project may have certain process a certain certainty of performance. If it can be done, or things like valid contracts. We must also remember that this has an issue. Technology also. Certain things which may be certain things. This is a people person. So this interpretation of what is certain, what you must know the spirit of it. The spirit of it. All contracts should be objects of be objects which are reasonably performable in the reasonable fixed or a certain amount of time. Let's look at another question. Can acceptance or the consent be conditional? So if the proposal is made, can the person accept the proposal with conditions? The acceptance has to be without coercion. That is, there is no force. The person does not have to be under duress. These are the conditions which have to be applied and have examining whether the acceptance is acceptable as far as acceptance has that is, further, it should be without undue influence. Nobody should be influenced into accepting